special episode of The Secret Life of Entrepreneurs on 91.3 FM CJTR, Regina Community Radio. You're listening to your host, Barb McGrath, local business owner, marketing guru, and founder of the Get Found on Google program. This week, I'm talking to a leader in the business community who's making a positive impact in her workplace, for our stakeholders, and in our ongoing series, Women in Leadership. Stay tuned to learn her secrets about what makes her tick, what helps her get out of bed in the morning, the difference she is making in our community, and her role as a leader in our community. So welcome, Margaret Kisikaw-Piyesis. I'm working really hard on that name. Today's been the day of names for me. All right, welcome, Margaret. Thank you for joining me today. Please start off by tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you're doing.
Sure. Thank you very much for inviting me to come and speak. I'm delighted to come and share a little bit of what I know as an Indigenous Cree woman from this land. I've been here forever with my ancestors, and it's exciting to see as we move forward to see that culture is a part of our way forward for Indigenous people. And for myself, my parents were Cree. My father from the George Gordon First Nation, and my mother, his family comes from teepees. And so as we begin to look at where we are today, as in my own family, I'm raising a third generation, my grandchildren, who probably won't live on those communities for many reasons. And I was raised off of the communities and have always been an urban Indigenous person and raised my families in that manner. So today I work, I'm the CEO for All Nations Hope Network. I am involved in many different opportunities to bring culture back to Indigenous people in many forms through our languages, our ceremonies, our medicines, our teachings, and our dances and our songs. And it's a beautiful way of really helping the people to move forward in understanding their own identity as Indigenous people, and to bring back some of our ways that we had that will be solutions to what we face today and the many health and social conditions that are impacting the people. And as Indigenous people, I feel we have a lot of solutions to bring forward to what we face today. And not only for our nation, but for the many nations that came here to this land. And so as we begin to look at the healing and the wellness within our own communities, we can be able to bring that forward to share with other nations that came here. You know, if an example of that would to look at the land, because the land is healing for us, and to have respect for that and the sacredness of Mother Earth and everything that dwells in it, from the plants and the animals to the water, to the air, all of that we look at in terms of how we want to heal right alongside the environment, right, and going to the land. So today I have, I'm delighted to be able to lead an organization, with the board of directors who support me to be able to bring some of those solutions to the surface and to be able to share that with the people. And so we're involved in research projects. We're also involved in networking, and also involved with some training. And we do outreach in the city of Regina here. And so we're a network in Saskatchewan. So we've not only worked in Saskatchewan, but we also have worked in Canada with different areas and some international work. And so as Indigenous people, we're all related. As human beings, we're all related.
We are,
and
yes.
So, this is the land of where my ancestors came from. So we're wanting to bring that to light and to really look at those ways and share those ways once more. And there's a lot of, I'm a traditional medicine practitioner. I've been dedicated 4 years to do some training and some understanding, some ceremonies and some learning in that area. So I will now be a lifelong protector of the plants and the medicines of the land. And
so tell me more about that, Margaret, because when we were talking before we started the show, you mentioned for holidays you were going out to, was it medicine fields or healing fields?
I was going out to some medicine, to look for some medicine and to gather some medicine. So harvesting.
So tell me about that.
Well, it's specifically, we look for some of the medicines that we have identified that are useful in the way in where we work, right? And so we harvest medicine for medicine people to use, in their when people come and see them and they're talking about what's going on in their life and physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, they're asked. And then there's ceremony that's done, and then they're given some medicine.
Okay.
And so these are the medicines that we harvest throughout the season, the harvesting season. So from the spring to the fall is when we'll harvest the majority of the medicines that we know, and have those available for people. One of the easiest medicines that people might know is sage. And so we will harvest that throughout the seasons and have that prepared so that we can use it throughout the year in our ceremonies and our teachings. So on Friday is the Smudge Walk here in Regina.
Okay.
And so this is when the community and some of the political people and some of the local businesses and the agencies come together, and we walk in the community. We pray in North Central.
Okay.
So the walk has been going for quite a while, and started when there was an article from Maclean's on that neighborhood being the worst neighborhood in Canada. And so people got together and put that walk together, and so it's been going now for quite a few years. I'm not sure how many. And so part of what we do at All Nations Hope is we smudge every day. So we join the walk.
Okay.
We're part of organizing the walk and helping with the walk, providing the medicines for the walk, providing a bit of expertise in our relationships that we have with pipe carriers and helpers and people who are resource people who are cultural that can put teepees up and do some of those activities in a city here in an urban setting, right? It's different putting a teepee up here in a city than it is putting it up on the land.
Absolutely. And having had the opportunity to help a couple of times, there's some serious skill involved in knowing what you're doing to do it correctly. Because I've seen a few that could have been lean-tos, not teepees anymore.
In our traditions and our teachings, it was a woman's position to put the teepee up because that was our house. That's what we carried around. Right? So that makes sense. And it's still like that, and it's our house, even in the city.
Yes.
It's our house as women, our home. Those are things that I've been working on. But we smudge every day at All Nations Hope in our outreach, and so we scientists have proven that smudge, removes bacteria from the air, but our ancestors knew that for years and years, that it was a way of cleansing, right? And so we've been doing this since the beginning of time. And even in the research that we were involved in at All Nations Hope, we come at it from a one lens view. We're viewing it from our lens as Indigenous people. Our ancestors have been researching since the beginning of time, so this is nothing new to All Nations Hope and to our research work that we do.
Okay.
And we not only do this work in Saskatchewan, but in Canada too, and we're involved in many research projects helping to bring solutions to life for Indigenous people, right? So around the multitude of issues that we face. And it's always exciting because we do everything in ceremony. So when we begin to do to vision on a project that we're going to want to work on, there's ceremony involved. And so as that ceremony goes before us, the medicines go before us, and the pipe makes a way for us when we have a pipe ceremony to make sure that work will be done in a good way, and if it's to be done at all, it'll make a way for us. And it's easy. It's my days of working the other way, where it was all my mind that I'm writing the proposals, I'm the one doing the work, I'm doing all this. No, it wasn't me.
It's exhausting.
It's a gift the Creator gives us to be able to do this work. And when we include ceremony and how we're doing it, that's the biggest piece of the work that I can say has really helped me as a young woman to where I am today. And I think I'm a middle-aged woman. I don't know. I'm 56, so I'm not quite sure.
I don't know the beginning, the middle, and the end anymore.
It's kind of interesting because I danced in a Sundance, and it was my second year, and I had I decided this year not to dye my hair anymore.
Okay.
And so I'm going gray, and I've been going gray since I was 26 years old. So I'm totally gray. And so at the Sundance, I had my daughter, braid my hair so that it was all in place for the 4 days that we danced and fasted. And so we were getting the tree of life, and I was tobaccoed to pray for the tree. And I'm like looking around, and I'm thinking, there's older women here, and why are they asking me, right? And it was my hair, because I'm letting it go gray, and it looks totally gray. And I think that's for me, that's a time in life that I know I'm stepping into a different area of responsibility as an Indigenous woman, right? I'm a grandmother. I've got 3 beautiful grandchildren from 13 to 6, and they're just beautiful, and that's why I do the work I do, in terms of making sure I know who I am as an Indigenous woman. I know what my roles and responsibilities are. I'm learning the medicines, I'm learning the ceremonies, I'm learning the songs, I'm learning so much more on how to be an Indigenous woman and what my responsibilities are as a nurturer. I have to know that for myself before I can help others in whether it's a research project or decisions I'm making in research, or decisions I'm deciding on partnerships and some of the networking that we do when we work with other institutions, systems, or agencies around some of the research or the programming and services that are being offered. So I really have to pray. I want to use the word plead hard with the Creator and our ancestors to get that information so I can move forward and help the people, things that are going to make a real difference in our community, and not the Band-Aids. The Band-Aids are good. They've been keeping people alive, but it's time now that we dig deep as an Indigenous organization and look for the solutions and offer those solutions to the people so that they can move forward in their lives, that we can help them identify some solutions. We can reintroduce them to their culture. We just finished a moose hunting project, and it was called Masipachu, and that means those who hunt in Cree.
Okay.
And so there was about 7 men who were part of that, and a whole team that surrounded them, of course, and supported them for a year, where they went to the land and they had a relationship with the land. These were men that lived in the city most of their lives, and young men, never been to their reserve,
never had an opportunity to hunt,
never went back and forth, or even learning that, right? And that's one of our rites of passage for our men. One of them is to hunt when they're boys and have their first kill. This opportunity we had with the men to bring them together and do this was so enlightening to not only them but to us. What they gave us was a wealth of information to be able to build more research projects that will identify this is the way we need to do work in our community to bring back those roles and responsibilities for Indigenous men, that we are looking at building them, at them building themselves really into the providers and the protectors of families and of the nations, right? That role has been taken away from them for many years, from colonization to residential schools to the 60s scoop to the current social services, where they're apprehending our children at the greatest numbers. They've apprehended more children than through that system than residential schools.
So let's go back to your organization if we can for just a minute, Margaret. So talk to me about some of this research you're doing, because it excites me to hear that it's solutions based, not Band-Aid based. So tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. Quite a few years ago, we decided, let's do some research. Let's look at it. And we had one of our founding members. He's passed away now. He was the late Art Cashwadam, and he was part of All Nations Hope AIDS Network in the beginning. We had changed our names over the years. We had dropped the AIDS out of it and became All Nations Hope Network, because we've changed over the years from just not only being an HIV/AIDS organization, but we had to deal with hepatitis C, with addictions, with mental health, with other sexually transmitted infections, and with homelessness, with poverty. There was so much we were dealing with, and statistically in this province, Indigenous people are the highest at the highest rate for HIV, right, in the country, and they're the highest rate of everything. When you look at stuff. But I don't want to talk about that. What I like to talk about is the resiliency of the people, and that's where these research projects really grew out of. And at the very beginning of our work in research, the late Art Cashwadam, he named a project, and it was Pamasawan Life, and what that instilled in myself as the leading researcher and leading person at All Nations Hope is that we always have to look for life in everything we do. And so everything that we have, our projects, our programs, even our bylaws, they're all living documents. Everything's alive to us as Indigenous people. That's the beauty we see and feel and know as Indigenous people. And so very early on, that life, that Pamasawan, which means life in Cree was instilled in me. And so I began to think that way. And through the ceremonies, when we go in and ask for good things for the people, every year we make an offering at All Nations Hope, and we ask for good things for the staff and the board and our families, right? We need to be in a good place so that we can help the people in a good way.
That's right.
Forward, yeah.
Yes, exactly. You need to be in a position of strength to be able to help other people become stronger.
Yes.
Right?
That's true.
That's very true. So tell me what inspired some of this work. I mean, the work you are doing on a daily basis, it is mentally and physically exhausting. That's just not go to work and push some papers around. So what keeps you going? Where do you find it from?
I would say that standing behind me right now are my ancestors. So my dad left in '96. He was a hard worker, and he showed that to his children, and so that he left us with that too. We all work hard in our lives, and my mother's still living, and she's a hard worker. She's in her late 70s, and she's still up and at it every day and doing this and that for people. And so, I woke up in 2007 to an understanding that and a purpose in life. I was that person that was running around crazy, working overtime, always working, neglecting my family. I always thought, oh, my children, when I was raising them, they had, food, shelter, clothing, the basic necessities, but they didn't have me because I was always working.
Right.
But that's what I was taught by my parents, and my parents were taught that by their parents. They were hard workers, right?
Right.
And they came from the residential school era too, so they didn't have any skills to raise us children, and our grandparents we lost very early on. They left, these illnesses, diabetes, addictions. They left very early, and so we didn't have that opportunity to sit with them and learn the ceremonies and the language and all of that because they left. And so as I began to wake up in 2007, Waniska, wake up, it's time for me to wake up and know what my purpose was in life, and it wasn't pushing paper and writing hundreds of proposals and looking for money to run the nonprofit organization All Nations Hope Network. My purpose was to plead with our ancestors and the Creator with visions that we had to do some work with the people and how it would unfold. And over the years I've seen the beauty of pleading in that manner because some of the partnerships that we've had in the community, our most recent one is with the YWCA. And we're building together a sacred site in their new facility.
Yes, their new facility, that's right. Okay.
Yes, and so this sacred site will have a sweat lodge that can be indoors and outdoors because of our weather here in the province.
Yes.
We want to have access to a sweat lodge throughout the year, and it's such a beautiful ceremony, and we want to have access to a place for some of our moon ceremonies, which is a woman's ceremony for women and their partners and their families to come. And so we've got some beautiful ceremonies that we want to bring back to life here in Saskatchewan, in Regina, in the urban area. And so this sacred site that we'll have, we'll be able to store our medicines there. We'll have our medicine room there available for some of the medicine people that we bring in to see the people. When currently right now we have 3 different places where we do the work, and so to have it all in one place will be beautiful. Oh,
I see what you mean. So there's 3 separate locations right now, but you'll be able to bring it all together with the new facility. Okay.
Yeah. And so that partnership that we have with the YWCA is just one partnership. We've gotten many partnerships like that, and we're working together. And so what we're saying as Indigenous people is that we have the solutions for what we need to do to bring life to the people. What we need, though, is to work in partnership with the existing institutions, systems, and agencies, and for them to stand alongside and support us and to hold us up as we begin to do this work. And that's what the YWCA has done. That's what some of the other agencies that we have partnerships with have done. So it's a beautiful way of understanding one another as human beings. And we do this work for the human being. So the center of everything that All Nations Hope does, what surrounds a human being, is the research, the programming, the outreach, and the networking. Everything we do is around for the humanity.
Is around there. Okay.
Yeah, and it's a nice way to think about everything. And we touch all the staff that work at All Nations Hope. They've been there for quite a while, so we've had long-term staff there, and we keep building our staff, and and keep building some of the programs, the services, and the research that's being offered in the community. We keep building our partnerships. So it's a beautiful way of existing and knowing that we're not alone in looking for solutions, but and identifying some of those solutions and being able to work together with what exists. You know, myself being going to a ceremony and asking pleading for wellness for myself, being told by the ancestors that I need to take my medication that I'm taking, but I also need to take some medicine. So, you know, the best of both worlds. And so, you know, someday I won't take the medication anymore, and the medicine will be all that I'm going to access or going to be using, right? So that day will come. It's about understanding some of the teachings around that, and that's what I want to see in our community with people who are suffering from any of these diseases, I call them, like HIV, hepatitis C, addictions, mental health, those type of diseases that we see, and even the trauma that people face from being in a residential school, or the trauma that we carry from our ancestors, which is blood memory. So, you know, we're dealing with a lot of looking for solutions, and along the way being introduced to people who can help us. And so that's a beautiful way. And it's not, I believe our ancestors, like when we do these ceremonies, they put things in place so that people will come and say, all of a sudden they're like, I want to meet with All Nations Hope. We want to help you. And that's the beauty of it, right? That people are all listening. We're all connected, right? Our ancestors are always present, and they're wanting us to reconcile and to talk about solutions for where we are today, because we're not in a good place.
No, we're not. We're absolutely not. Yeah. Talk to me about some of those partnerships. You have the partnership with the YW, and we need to talk about, of course, the award that you won, but talk to me about some of the other partnerships that you're working on or have.
Sure. So one of the long-standing relationships we've had is with the Métis Addictions Services in Regina here. And so we've been going, if I can say at least since 1995, we go there every month to talk to the people who are in there going through treatment, and we talk to them about HIV, Hep C, other sexually transmitted infections. We talk to them about where they are in life, where they can get support or help. So we've had that one forever, and so we're working together. They're having I think it's I don't want to be wrong, but I think it's 25 years.
Wow.
Celebration in the fall. So there are not in the fall, it'll be coming up pretty quick here. They're having a celebration for that, right? And so we're part of that. We're also looking they bring in one of their counselors from the Maxi to our office downtown, or down in North Central, on a weekly basis, a recovery group. And so one of their counselors comes, and one of our counselors works alongside each other, and they work towards recovery for people. And there's no rules or regulations or sticky stuff of you need to sign up. No, it's drop in.
Yes.
And we're just there for the people every Monday. And so there's a lot of partnerships that we have in that area with really working together. We have some volunteers in the community. We run, one of the ladies, Angeline Anaquad, runs Billy's Place, which is a men's group, and she does that in the evenings at All Nations Hope. She has a full-time job, but she comes and does the evening work with the men. And we've seen that group grow and prosper and begin to, like, new beginnings for some of the men that she's been helping. And her heart is set because it was her brother who she wanted to name the group after, Billy, who's no longer here. So it's a beautiful story, and you run into people like that. It's always heartfelt stories. Like even myself working in this field, you know, when I first, we weren't raised, when we were young, my parents moved us to Washington State, so we lived over there off and on for about 16 years. So most of my upbringing was in Washington State. And so when I moved back to Canada, I think I was in grade 11 when we moved back here, and I went to Tom Collegiate, and I experienced racism for the first time. I never experienced that in Washington. You know, they really loved us in the town we lived in because we were the only Indigenous family. We were the only Indigenous family, so they loved us. And I can remember being in second grade, I think, and the teacher was talking about everybody's ethnicity, and they're like, "Oh, what kind of Indian are you? They asked me. And I'm like, I got to go home and ask, because we weren't raised, with our language.
Okay.
Like, my parents are both residential school survivors, so they didn't want to teach us any of the language.
Yes, exactly.
They were so busy working all the time, they never really parented us. They didn't know how, all of that, right? But moving back to Canada and experiencing racism for the first time, I was always kind of a outspoken person.
Okay.
And so that really instilled in me that I wanted to work in the community. And throughout my early life and my early career life, I worked for a program called Healthiest Babies Possible, and I advocated and talked for I was supposed to be a childbirth educator, but I was more of an advocator, and I would go and talk for the young women who were experiencing racism, prejudice, or ignorance or stigma within the institutions, the systems, and other agencies. So I was mad for probably the first 20 years of my work life.
Oh, wow.
Always fighting. Oh, yeah, and I made myself very sick. In 2007, when I told you, when I woke up, that's when I decided I can't be like that anymore. It made me sick. I had a high blood pressure, high cholesterol, it was crazy, and I was sick, and I took 6 weeks off of work, and I was at All Nations Hope, and I wasn't sure if I was going to go back, because I didn't want to work in that kind of a way anymore. But what helped me was the board of directors. They supported me, and they made sure that I was well enough, and that I wanted to come back, and they gave me that support, and I'm so thankful for that. And people prayed for me.
Good.
And so I came back, and I came back even stronger.
Even stronger.
Yeah, and even more knowledge and more vision for the outlook of All Nations Hope and the work that we wanted to achieve as an Indigenous network in Saskatchewan.
So, Margaret, we only have about 2 minutes left. Can you quickly tell us if somebody wanted to learn more about the organization or talk to you about becoming a partner, learn more about the work you're doing, where do they find you? How do they get a hold of you?
The easiest way to find us is on our website. So it's www.allnationshope.ca. And so I'm on there, Margaret Kisikaw-Piyesis, and there's other staff on there too. And so if they're interested in looking and finding out more about our organization, they're welcome to come down and see us too. Okay. They're welcome to come have a look at what we do and volunteer with us.
That sounds wonderful. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. It's been a fantastic time here with Margaret today, and we're just going to do a quick show wrap up, and then we will be good to go. So I will be back, if you can believe it, on the 4th of September with Dr. Vianne Timmons from the University of Regina, and she too will talk to us a little bit about the significance of this award, and I believe she was the winner of the Lifetime Achievement Award. So she will be our final guest in the Women in Leadership series. Each of the winners from the Women of Distinction did have an opportunity to join me on the show. And it's been such a pleasure, Margaret. I thank you for being with me here today. It wasn't until I noticed your business card partway through the show that you actually are based out in Fort Capel.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, so I didn't realize that. Thank you for coming into Regina. If you would like to be a guest on the show, you can email me at barb@googlegirl.ca, or you can reach out on Facebook and Instagram at Above the Fold Canada. You can even send me a message in advance of our live show, and you can just leave that on Facebook and Instagram. I'm your host, Barb McGrath, local business owner and Google Girl. Remember, you worked hard for your success. Don't keep it a secret. Bye for now.